Tommy Aldridge here with Get on the Bus. Get on the bus and have some fun. I've spent most of my life on the bus.
Howdy folks, I'm Dean DeLeo and I play guitar in Stone Temple Pilots, amongst other things. Well, Robert was somewhat of a prodigy at a very young age. When I would leave, he would, go under my bed and take my guitar out and he would play. And the stuff he was playing was incredible. Robert was probably 15, 16 years old, maybe younger. And a real prodigy. And, I'd like to just set the record straight, and I've said this on a lot of interviews, but, Robert's responsible for writing some of the band's biggest songs, STP. He wrote Plush and Interstate on guitar. I just got to play them. I learned a lot from being in a band with my brother, yeah. And especially it shows a lot on like Trip the Witch and One More Satellite, because I played bass and I'm just doing my best Robert DeLeo. They had a band at the time, I think it was called Swing, and it was Robert, Scott, Eric, and Scott's dear friend, this guy Corey, one of Scott's friends from Huntington Beach. And they got a little $5,000 demo deal from a company called Savage Records, and they wanted some solos on a couple of the tracks. So Robert said to the guys, let's just have my brother come up and play. And I think it was then where Scott kind of realized, like, I'd like to have our guitar player be able to play like that. So one thing led to another, and sadly, Corey got booted and I got the gig. The more we spent time together, we kind of honed our sound and had some, not really growing pains, but we just got to become more familiar with one another's playing. And then we started just really delving in to basically what was to become core. What I kind of experienced was kind of when Jane's Addiction hit. Somebody passed along that CD to me, and it was refreshing to hear that record. God, what's the name of that one with the girls on the cover? Nothing Shocking. Yeah, so that really was refreshing to hear, because we were coming out of the 80s.
Oh yeah.
And it was a lot of stuff that I didn't particularly care for. Some of it I liked, like I dug some of the Thomas Dolby stuff, and if you can believe it, Scritti Politti, I dug some of that stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, the 80s were an interesting time for guitar music, Brilliant. He and I, as we were talking earlier, we lived together, so I was around him a lot. Nuttier than squirrel shit, but darn good, man. Amazing. When he was excited, he was excited. And when he was down, he was down. While making that record, Brendan, I think it's very important for me to bring up Brendan.
Okay.
Because he was an integral part in making these records, and we sure did learn a lot from him. And the best part about doing all our records with Brendan was I got to walk away with an amazing friendship, a solid cat, extraordinarily talented.
Yeah.
So that was really a wonderful aspect of making our records. Scott primarily wrote lyrics and melodies. Robert wrote the melody for Interstate, which came a little later, of course, but yeah, for the most part, Scott did lyrics and melodies. And I'll tell you, man, what was really special for us while making these records, Scott really enjoyed doing his vocals at night, 8, 9 o'clock after dinner. He was a little lubed up. And he would go in, he wanted to be alone with Brendan. And we would just be doing something silly, playing basketball or whatever, you know. And what a thrill to go into the control room and hear what Brendan and Scott did, you know, night after night, sometimes 2 songs, and just being like, wow. No, I think I'll tell you why we didn't have a lot of pressure, because it was we had our hands full with Scott. You know, we'd book these tours and there'd be hundreds of thousands of tickets sold and he wouldn't show up. You know, we're ready to go out on a tour and flights are booked and hotels are booked and lots of tickets sold and no singer. And yeah, the biggest goal for us was just trying to complete something for many years. After Tiny Music, I think we were exhausted. You know, we were just exhausted. And I think it was Robert that just really wanted to take a break from it all, because it was taxing, man.
Do you remember what year this was?
It was just before number 4, so it would have been around 96, 97, because we took about 2 years off, and I really was the catalyst to get the band back in to do number 4. And yeah, we did that record, and we were pretty pleased with it. And once again, Brendan was on board making that record with us. And we released that record while we watched Scott from the Los Angeles County courtroom get taken away in cuffs as he was sentenced to a year in the LA County jail. And that was harrowing, man. I was just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, and there he goes, just like you see in the movies, you know? And he did 6 months, and the label was ready to just scratch that record. And we convinced them to release Sour Girl. And apparently people liked that song. For Clinton's inauguration, we were walking through Manhattan one night. It was the band and our manager at the time. And he got a phone call, and he says, hey, Clinton wants you to play the White House lawn for his inauguration. We're like, oh, far out, man. Cool. Well, you know, it's amazing what a little heroin bust will do. I have a real nice pen and a beautiful letter from Bill saying, I don't think it's going to work out. So I'm a little unclear as to the timeline here. So I think after number 4, we did jump back in and did the Shangri-La-Di-Da record. And that was a real fun record to make, man. We rented a house, we all lived there, and it was really nice making that record. Great time. And I think Scott is so brilliant on that record, and Robert's songwriting on that record is just incredible, in my humble opinion. And you know, if you're only as good as those who are around you, those guys make me look really good, you know?
Right on.
So, yeah, that was a nice record to make. We really had high hopes for that record, and it kind of went over everybody's heads, you know, the Shangri-La-Di-Da record. And I think after that is when Scott joined Velvet Revolver. I was startled. I was shocked. I was rattled to my core, like I don't know that I've ever felt before. I was in the studio working with my dear friend Cal Campbell, and we got the news, and boy, it really felt like life left my body. I wasn't surprised, because I knew what his schedule was prior to that tour that he passed away on. You know, they had him doing an ungodly amount of shows in a short period of time, and I just, you know, we were really separate at that point. He was out doing his whatever that band was called. He had Wildabouts, and yeah, I knew it wasn't going to bode well. But he had, you know, he was surrounded by yes men, and that's one of the reasons he didn't want to be around us, because we were like dude, we have your best interests in our hearts here. Like, this is probably not a good idea. Leave me alone. And he wound up dying on that tour. I had a lot of time in my hands. I had a lot of material. I was playing a lot of guitar, more than I ever had over this last year. And thank goodness, our dear friend, who's responsible for engineering and mixing the Perdita record, the Trip the Witch record, and the One More Satellite record, our dear friend Ryan Williams, who's an integral part on these records. He just lives right over here, not too far. So I got a 7-8 minute drive to his house. So that I basically lived there for several months. And yeah, I reached out to Pete to sing on a song or two, and you know, Pete's such an immense talent. And you know, what you're hearing on this record is just a fraction of what he's capable of. He sang on this record and wound up singing on 8 of the 10 songs. And he just wrote lyrics and melody, but Pete's an extraordinary musician, drums, bass, guitar. He's one of those guys.
Wow.
You know? So yeah, it just turned into this, and we can blame you, Pete. Listen, man, I've been trying to get away from myself for a long time. I can't seem to do it.
Yeah.
I know, it's funny because people are like, I really hear SDP in that. Well, yeah, no shit. It's
not. Hey, man.
Do you hear Scott and Pete's voice? I'm like, no, not at all. Like, two totally different tonalities. To me, Pete has that, I don't know, there's something in the water up there, man, in Northern England. They all have that thing. It's like, you know, when you hear Frampton sing, they have that thing, you know, Marriott, and there's just something about that English tone that comes out of these guys. And so that's what I really hear, really reminiscent of, like, you know, the stuff I was latching onto in the 70s. We met Jeff, I think, in 2015, but we didn't make the announcement till about 17. Poor guy.
Yeah.
We auditioned a lot of people. We were about to put a fork in it, and Robert was introduced to Jeff after a Hollywood Vampire show. And Robert calls me in the middle of the night. He goes, man, I met this guy. Might be our guy. And Jeff came out. And we gave the guy the gig after we courted one another for a little while, a couple of months, and he couldn't say anything for the next year and a half. You know, it's all about impact, right? So the poor guy had to not tell anybody for quite some time. Well, there's fan blowback on One More Satellite. You know, it's just like, you know, you can hear people saying, like, oh, I could really hear this with Scott on it. Well, tell me how, man. Tell me how you, like, you know, it's like, dude, that was
Fans don't get chapters.
Well, thank God for Jeff Goot, because he's delivering that stuff with a ferocity. And you know, it was funny because we did some shows with Robert Plant a while back, and he was in our dressing room, and it was interesting to hear how Robert spoke of Zeppelin. He was like very frank and very direct. He was like, that was then, man. That was then. And he really had no interest in looking back. I mean, I'm sure he's very proud of it, but he was very, very direct. Like, that was that, man.